5 cities have been named. The next cities are starting with the, here we go. So they're going to start announcing the Central Division team. So we're going to keep an eye on this for a second.
First up, we have Kansas City.
We are following breaking news. Kansas City will be one of the host cities for the 2026 World Cup.
World Cup is coming to Kansas City.
My goodness! The World Cup is coming to Kansas City, baby, in 2026!
The World Cup is coming to Kansas City.
Soccer does not exist in this country in the form that it does without Kansas City. Lamar Hunt, in all intents and purposes, brought soccer to the United States. He was a part of a failed league in the NASL. He then started Major League Soccer with some other guys, owned multiple teams. That league was failing. It was on the brink of bankruptcy. All the owners had agreed to file for bankruptcy and disband the league, so he bought another team.
Guys like Lamar Hunt, I mean, I can't. I have so much respect for men like him that have devoted so much time and resources into this great game. And fortunately, I'm one of the people that can make a living out of soccer. And if it's not for men like him, we can never have it happen.
I remember the old NASL with the Detroit Express growing up, and after that league folded, not many people really thought soccer would come back in the United States, and it's because of a man like him that we're here playing, in our 12th season.
2006 was kind of a seminal moment for soccer in Kansas City. The Kansas City Wizards were up for sale. The future of the team was largely unknown. The team had been told there was a possibility they would be relocated and moved outside of Kansas City. And if not for 2 different owners, Lamar Hunt, who had a commitment to keeping the team in Kansas City and was very much prioritizing finding a local ownership group for the team. He has made the statement that Kansas City is not as major league if we lose one of our major league sports teams. And so for him, it was a priority to find a local ownership group that would be able to keep the team in Kansas City and invest in the team to see it succeed. And then that second ownership group is ultimately Sporting Club, who became the owners of the Kansas City Wizards, and a group led by Cliff Illig and Neil Patterson and their families. And everything that's transpired since. They buy the team in 2006. They immediately invest in Soccer Village. They then quickly thereafter invest in Sporting Park, opening one of the best soccer-specific stadiums in North America. It's now hosting teams throughout the tournament as a training site for the World Cup. They then invest in championship-winning teams and players and coaches over the proud history of this club, all get you to the point that you are today. Without either Lamar Hunt or the Illigs and Patterson families, we're not hosting a World Cup in Kansas City.
The event that took soccer from an idea that just didn't work, had been tried multiple times in Kansas City, to an accepted reality was the rebrand of Sporting Kansas City and the building of Sporting Park. When the owners of On Goal bought the team, rebranded the team, and built a state-of-the-art stadium and created a first-class atmosphere around it, that everybody in Kansas City went from thinking this is never going to work to fully accepting this is here and it's not going away. And that's what the rest of the country did as well. You look at all the other stadiums in Major League Soccer, there's probably 21 of them now. Out of a league that at one point had 10 teams and was failing, now 30 teams in the league and 21 of them have built stadiums.
best stadium, soccer specific at the time, most technologically advanced. This reclamation project of an initial franchise that probably wasn't going to make it. Cliff and the ownership group step in and buy it. We're now doing the standalone stadium. Suddenly, this fledgling brand of the Wizards is sporting, and we have success on field. We won a trophy in 2013, and we were really the first franchise that was an original to MLS to really kind of have a version 2.0.
And the trophy belongs to Kansas City!
None of what we are now experiencing happens without that foundation being laid, right? I think the vision from the ownership to actually see that, hey, we need best-in-class facilities. That is a differentiator for us, especially in the Midwest, right? We always talk about it as a recruiting tool. If we can get them here and they see it, they're going to leave and believe in it.
None of this happens without the fans and supporters of the Wizards and then Sporting Kansas City. Sam Perrin, who was the founder of the Mystics, the first supporters group in club's history. He and a group of other fans invented the supporter shield when he was a college kid at the University of Kansas. It's a unique trophy in the world, and fans from other parts of the world need to know about it because in MLS they decided we need a playoff because that's how sports are done in America. But the supporters that watched European football were like, wait a second, the way that they do it everywhere else is the regular season title gets the winner, and in Italy it's the Scudetto, the shield. The fans made their own trophy to give the players that they thought deserved the accolades, which were the ones that had the best full season. They made their own trophy. They raised $2,000. They had an art student that he knew at the University of Kansas make a piece of metal that they gave to the players. And the teams get to keep it for a year, and then they have to give it back to the supporters who own the shield. That started in Kansas City. We know the training facilities are first class because look at who's base camping here. That all happens because of the investment of the people that have the money and the resources to invest. But without the support of the fans and their passion for the game, none of this happens either. Tell me something that's more authentic than inventing the supporter shield. Tell me something that's more authentic than a group of people that fight routinely for a sport to keep it relevant, to convince all the people around them that it's worth paying attention to. You don't have to do that in other countries. The game it's accepted that it's incredibly important. But in Kansas City and in the United States for history, it's taken people to relentlessly fight for the relevance of the game. Those fans in Kansas City have done it as well as anybody. How important is Sporting Kansas City to the narrative of this? It's not just in how well they fought for the bid itself, it's how they established soccer as an actual thing that people understood really works in America. It took pioneers and vision, and Kansas City is a city of pioneers. You go back to Lewis and Clark, to Walt Disney, to the Cerner guys, it's a town of pioneers, and soccer is a perfect example of it.
2010 is kind of the starting point for, I think, the transformation of soccer in Kansas City. You had the famous game against Manchester United, 52,000 fans at Arrowhead Stadium.
Kansas City Wizards hold off the Red Devils and beat Manchester United 2-1.
You open the stadium, then in June of 2011, the team finishes in first place with a really strong finish. You win the Open Cup in 2012, you win MLS Cup in 2013, and you host more Open Cup finals and win more Open Cup championships, and that all led right into when the bid process was starting in 2016, 2017. So you kind of had 5, 6, 7 straight years of really strong success for soccer in Kansas City, not just with Sporting Kansas City, but also with the NWSL. You'd won multiple NWSL championships during that time. You'd won an indoor soccer championship. So this notion of Kansas City becoming the soccer capital of America had really taken hold in that previous 5 or 6 years that led perfectly into the start of the bid process. This is the third time Kansas City has tried to be a host city for the World Cup, going all the way back to the early 1990s when the 1994 World Cup was held in the United States. Kansas City was in contention to be a host city, but wasn't ultimately selected when that final decision was made. And then, you fast forward to 2010. That's when the United States was bidding to host originally both the 2018 and the 2022 World Cup, which was given to Qatar.
When we found out we didn't get the bid in 2010, I'd only been here for probably 2 months. There was a level of belief and confidence that we had it, and we didn't, which then makes the level of devastation even more, right? Because you're like, oh my gosh, like this was, how did we not get this?
By June of 18, we know that the World Cup is coming to North America. It's going to be held in Mexico, the United States, and Canada. Until June of 22, there's that 4-year bidding process to ultimately decide which host cities are going to get the games.
Yeah, I think if you look at the last really decade of what we've done from a soccer standpoint, you look at the World Cup watch parties we've had, you look at what sporting's done. I think we soccer capital of America. I think we've established ourselves as a hotbed for the sport, and I think we're as well positioned as anybody. Just excited. We'll get this turned in today, and we'll see where it goes.
There's kind of these cycles. You have to submit the bid. That's a big lift from the city, from the sports commission, from sporting, all out front. You got to get everyone aligned on what we're doing, the airport, the stadium, all those things have to be agreed upon and submitted.
Sporting took a leading role in putting the bid together in 2017. Sporting Kansas City obviously had a lot of the resources that were needed to make it happen. Our creative team helped design the bid.
We didn't look at it like, how do we show that we're better than XYZ? We just looked at it as like, why Kansas City? If you take the approach that you're trying to convince people why that city's not as good, that's not the way to do it. At least it's not the Kansas City nice way to do it. Ours was like, let's just show you why we're awesome. The city, the people here, the experience you're gonna have, like imagine as a team when you come in here, here's what it's gonna be like, and you're gonna have all these people that are supporting you. And it's funny now in hindsight, like seeing how the city has like embraced the base camps is exactly what we were trying to pitch. These people will adopt you, like they're gonna be family, they're gonna be supporting you.
So we submitted that, and then, there was a long period of time where we were just kind of quiet. And then as things evolved from there, the next major involvement I had was in October of 21, which was gonna be their last visit before they selected the host cities. And so we were just brainstorming outside the box. How could we make this an over-the-top experience for them?
When you look at the FIFA site visit when they came in October of 2021, a lot of our staff, from our owners all the way down to our executive staff, really did play a large part in having the success of bringing the World Cup to Kansas City.
We had a really strong plan laid out. We had volunteers from sporting just walking the airport because they were all arriving late the night before from different countries. And we wanted it to look robust, alive, with friendly people that were there to help them if they were at all confused. We had trained the drivers to be able to articulate about the new airport because you would drive past that. We had boards up in the old airport and then along the drive past the new airport showing what it would look like so they could envision, all right, very modern, contemporary airport that's coming in here. We had all of their rooms facing Power and Light from the Lowe's Hotel so that they would see our wallscape down there. They leave to go into 3 different directions, one to go to Arrowhead, one to go to Power and Light, one to go to base camps. That they walked out the front door and we had these 2 youth teams during school in October playing in that grassy field. We have the streetcar stop that says we want the cup on it. They get into Power and Light, a large contingency of them, and they have the videos playing of prior World Cups in that live arena. The folks that had to go out to Arrowhead, we had their location all mapped out, so everything was smooth and clean, and they could envision how things would flow out to Arrowhead. With the base camps, we went to 5 different locations, each kind of, how do we map this out perfectly? Where are we gonna stop for lunch? Where are we gonna stop, for this and for ice cream and just all of that stuff. We were intense about it.
You didn't want to assume that, hey, we're good. Just because we had one good meeting or one good pitch. That was not the mentality. The mentality was like, hey, no matter how good that last one was, like the next one's gotta be better. We can't take any of this for granted. Even if we're hearing good feedback, we can't take the foot off the gas as we go through this. Let's make sure, no matter what, every time they're dealing with Kansas City, that they're like, this is amazing, and you guys are borderline too much to deal with in the best positive way. I think that definitely had an impact.
With Kansas City, it was always, this matters, this means everything to us. And that's the way I think FIFA felt when they came in. What made the lead up to the World Cup a bit frustrating for some people involved is not knowing, but it made that exact moment pretty cool and special because, the dignitaries didn't know, the people involved in the bid didn't know, and we all found out together.
we did not know. Nobody knew. We were up in the Order Pub with the Hunts and the mayor and Cliff Billig and his family and the Pattersons.
My job that day was to host a watch party in the Power and Light District. In the middle of a hot summer day in Kansas City with the American flag in hand and the pyrotechnics ready to go in front of thousands of people, hoping like heck that we got some good news.
They did the West Coast first, and they did a big buildup before they announced every city. Then they went to the Midwest, basically, and they just say,
First up, we have Kansas City.
we all went crazy.
A feeling of elation, of relief, of excitement. I saw people in the crowd crying, which was really powerful, and our confidence was justified at the end of the day.
I'd like to remind everybody here that Kansas City would not have soccer. We would not have the chance to host the World Cup if it weren't for Lamar Hunt and the Hunt family. Kansas City has always supported soccer, and now we have a chance to show ourselves to the rest of the world and to make a statement not only about Kansas City as the greatest soccer city in America, but also one of the greatest sports cities.
To have had people that have worked on this for literally decades, going back to the early 1990s to try and bring a World Cup to Kansas City, finally to see that all pay off was really, really special.
Yeah, listen, I think there's a lot of people that should get thanked for this. Mayor Lucas has been a huge advocate of this from the get-go. Kathy Nelson, who, Sports Commission, Visit KC, and then the exec committee and the entire board that's been working on this has put in a lot of hard work. So these are big days for all of us. Good chance to celebrate. Now we got to figure out how do we get ready for those 6 matches.
In terms of the bid process and the effort that was put into this particular bid, it was Sporting Kansas City. All the way throughout the organization, from the highest paid employees to the lowest paid interns.
Kansas City does not have the World Cup without Sporting Kansas City. They taught all of us to be soccer fans, and the people who come to a sporting park every match are part of the reason we won the bid.
We're all super excited that Kansas City was selected as a host city. That was ultimately the goal that we'd all been working on for years and years and years. But I think there's been so many more moments since that have kind of been icing on the cake. Getting 6 games in Kansas City was a huge win for us. Having 2 of those being the knockout rounds with a round of 32 game and then a quarterfinal. It'll be the first ever quarterfinal World Cup game to be played in the entire Midwest, and that's going to be here in Kansas City.
It's the old, it takes a village. We have a very big village. We needed to get this one done.
Can't be said enough. The number of people that were involved in this from many different organizations. You had the sports teams for the Chiefs, the Sporting, you had the Sports Commission, you had the states, both Missouri and Kansas were involved. You obviously had the host city, you had the business community, the Chamber of Commerce, you had the hotels, the airports, potential fan fest locations, potential training sites for team base camps. All of these different pieces of the puzzle that had to go into that bid. Everybody was involved in putting that together that ultimately led to the success of getting the World Cup here in Kansas City.
It can be overwhelming if you're in it alone. And great news for me, for Kansas City, is no one was in it alone. And I really did rely on Sporting. Knowing that you're backed by an organization like Sporting, knowing that you have them as a partner, that they are helping you solve the problem or the challenge, gave me great confidence.
I always like to tell people that the bid didn't end when it got submitted. You kind of had to keep bidding throughout the process. And so ultimately it was bidding to be a host city. Then it was bidding to see how many games you could get and what rounds of games you could get. Then it was bidding to get the teams here as team base camps. So each one of those times it was like, all right, we didn't have much time to pat ourselves on the back that you'd achieved something pretty remarkable and historic for your city, but there was always another step to the process that you had to keep continuing through.
There were so many opportunities for this to fail in those 20 years, and there was just one thread that had to go through the needle for it to succeed, and a lot of people were working to make sure that happened.
If the team was interested in the city, FIFA would kind of orchestrate the visits, send the agenda to that team/country, and they would come and they would just go bop from location to location according to the FIFA schedule. We, as a host city, worked with FIFA to set out what we thought would be a really strong agenda. That was new to FIFA. They're like, why are you guys getting involved with this? And we'd be like, because we want to create a great experience for these teams. We kind of did what we did with the original FIFA visit, kind of mapped it out. How could we make this flow How could, we meet what we think they're looking for?
We would get calls from the next city they would go to, and they would be like mad because, gosh, why did we have to go after you guys, right? Because they would come in and be like, we were just in Kansas City, it was unbelievable. And so like right away, that city's like, okay, great, now we got to deal with this. You got to remember at the time, like they're going to 18 US cities, right? And every city at some point is going to blur together. Like, okay, we're in another hotel, we're in another conference room, we're at another stadium. What's the deal? How do we make that stand out was really important, because at the end of the day, when they're sitting down and they've done 18 of those visits, something has to stand out and we're like, oh, Kansas City was like this, right? And I think that's what we're trying to accomplish the whole time.
The next phase is you've got the draw that happened in December of 2025 to determine which teams were going to be playing in which parts of the tournament, in which groups. Then after that comes out, that's when the flurry of activity really picks up around team base camps. And now you're recruiting teams that you've been showcasing your facilities to for months or maybe even more than a year at that point, now know exactly where they're playing games in the World Cup. And now they're ready to decide within a matter of weeks where they're going to be based. And so this is really crunch time for the selection of team base camps, and you're trying to make all the pieces of the puzzle work.
That breaking news, the English are coming to KC. England will set up their World Cup base camp at Swope Soccer Village.
Kind of have the way they all rolled out with the announcement, kind of one shortly after another. It just kept building to this crescendo of, oh my gosh, we got Argentina. Oh my gosh, we got the Netherlands. Oh my gosh, we got England. Oh my gosh, we got a fourth in Algeria. I think it really took the world by notice that, hey, something's happening here in Kansas City and we should pay attention.
The world recognizes Kansas City as the soccer capital of America because you have 3 of the top 10 teams that chose us to be their base camp city, as well as Algeria, who was ranked 28. So, we got that kind of stamp by these very important countries.
Now we have to go into execute mode, right? And for those of us in sports, I describe it as like, that's okay, you're right in the preseason and you have this date now where the game 1 is coming. We're either going to be ready or we're not, and that's where you really need everyone to start activating all the things everyone said they were going to do. Now you got to actually go do it.